Hello, I'm Tony, and today I want to talk about a game called Draconius Go. For anyone out there going, what or why? I mean, that's what the video's about. Why, just watch the video? But for those that are impatient, Draconius Go is a good example of how a company's greed and desire for cryptocurrency cash can kill it. Let's talk about Draconius Go and Elyland, the company that created it, released it, and then put a greedy bullet in its head and watched it die, and then went with it. Draconius Go was released on 7th October in 2017, and it was followed up a few weeks later by a complaint by Niantic that it was an entire rip-off of Pokemon Go, which it was, except for the fact that they made up their own creatures, didn't call them Pokemon, and had all new art for them. Effectively, it was Pokemon Go, but what was interesting, it was a slightly improved Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go has changed quite a lot over the time it's been available. A lot's been added to the game. I mean, notably, PvP was not in the game when it first started, but there was a form of PvP in Draconius Go. It wasn't real time, but you did fight other creatures from other players, and how good yours were did count. Ironically, I think Niantic did actually steal stuff from Draconius Go to put into Pokemon Go. There are things like quests, which form a huge part of Pokemon Go now, but weren't in Pokemon Go when it was released. There was also the option to change movesets on the monsters that you found. I keep wanting to say Pokemon, but that's not right. Monsters that you found. And you also had arenas where you could earn coins, fight other people, put your creatures in, and defend. So it sounds like it was a better Pokemon Go, and you know what, it kind of was. Had a lot of downloads at the beginning, had a lot of buzz around it, had articles in Forbes saying how great it was. So what happened? Why is Pokemon Go still making $1 billion a year and Draconius Go is not? Well, I think that actually started when they started getting greedy. Now, the first thing that they did that really started to hurt was release something called Champions in November of 2017. So only a month or so after it was released. What Champions did was, at some point, kick you out of arenas. You know, arenas, the place where you made coins instead of buying them. And what tended to happen is all the arenas around you would be taken by your faction with no slots left for you to put your own monsters in to claim coins, or the opposition, which you would need to fight again in order to take it back, only to be kicked out within a few hours. So you never made any coins. Yes, I am still salty about it, even though it's changed now. Mid-December, more monsters were released, so people kind of still carried on. The interest was still there to a degree, and then later on in that month, the champions were changed a little bit so that they were far more likely to leave a space to allow you to add to the arena rather than taking up all the slots. It didn't work that well. It was a bit better, but not much. January comes around and more monsters are released. So it felt like a vibrant game. It felt like a game that was being updated regularly, that they were paying attention to. And then something called King Pete was released. King Pete was a new monster, released to the game. It was by far the most powerful monster in the game, and there were 3 ways to get it. You could get it by doing a golden egg hunt and being incredibly lucky. I think it was somewhere around like a 1 in 60 chance of getting it. If that, probably not even that. You could sign 2 people up to play the game, get them to level 10, I believe it was, and then you'd be gifted with your own one. Or, and this is Elyland being extremely generous, you could just straight up buy it in the shop for £100 or $160. Now weirdly, huge numbers of players created loads of fake accounts to get it for free. Because it cost £100. And you know, screw you. I'm not paying £100, I'll do this. So they changed it so you couldn't do that anymore. And that's when it started to go a little bit wrong. Now in March 2018 there were more monsters released and quality of life updates. More monsters in April. And then out of the blue, I think the final nail in the coffin, and something that seems to be even more relevant now, and it was the first time I'd heard of it personally, they announced an ICO for Selfie Go, a new cryptocurrency that was going to be included in a game called Clash and Go, because they have absolutely zero imagination for games names. Not everything has to be called Go. Call it something else. So the page for Elyland, ostensibly their Draconius Go page, the major part of the news was go and get Clash and Go because it's going to be a cryptocurrency. I think this baffled everyone, and to be honest was the final nail in the coffin, because this seems to have caused the company to collapse as far as I can tell. More monsters were released in May and June. A new PvP thing called Stadiums was released in July 2018. And then in August 2018, Clash and Go was released, alongside more monsters released in Draconius Go. I played Clash and Go for a little while. It was a pretty boring game. There wasn't much to it, which is a surprise because generally games linked to cryptocurrency are actually really good. I mean, they are pretty much the pinnacle of games nowadays. We got updates in October, more monsters added to the game of Draconius Go, and again in May 2019. So it's now 6 months or so between releases of monsters instead of kind of every month or two. Now you could see they were getting desperate because in June 2019 another monster was released as cash only, and this wasn't even available in the Golden Egg. This was straight up 50 quid, that's the only way to buy it. Now pretty much by this point the game had lost the majority of their player base. Obviously they were struggling for money. On the 25th of September 2018 we had the devastating news. The Selfie Go cryptocurrency, ICO, was cancelled. Elyland said this was a good thing because they had plenty of money. They were a great company. They were forging on with their own money. They'd been profitable for years. They didn't need an ICO. Which begs the question, well, why did you do one then? I think the cryptocurrency failed because no one wanted it. I mean, they'd probably do a lot better 3 or 4 years later. They probably would have made a crap ton of money. They were just too early. Now, weirdly, a month after this, bonuses were released in the game. Bonuses were the option to watch videos to get stuff. I think we can assume that they were not making enough money through the game itself and turned to advertisers, as a lot of free-to-play games do, a lot of mobile games do, which is fine. I don't have anything against it. In fact, I came back to the game because of the bonuses. By this point, I could no longer walk, so it was great for me because I could actually sit there, put some of the videos on, completely ignore it and watch YouTube while they were playing, and walk, hatch eggs, get stuff for free. So I loved it. It's a large part of why I'm still playing the game now. In June 2020, new monsters were released out of the blue. It was very unexpected given the last thing you heard was in November the previous year. So that was the last posting of news from the Elyland Draconius Go website. But it's not dead. It's still going. In April 2021, a new patch was released. It wasn't mentioned on Elyland's website, but it was released with a lot of quality of life changes that really benefited the players. Champions were removed and the tax limit was increased so you could earn more coins per day by putting more creatures in more arenas. Interestingly, the CFO and the CEO of Elyland left in April 2021. Is it likely that they stayed on, finished the work that they were doing, and then when it was done, off they all went? Yeah. In June, August and September of 2021, more bonuses were added, so you can get more free stuff if you watch more videos. And then out of the blue, in October 2021, new monsters were added again. 4 or 5, I believe. Well, not new, reskins of existing ones. So what about the company themselves? What about Elyland? What happened to them? Well, they're not dead. I may have over-exaggerated that a tad. Have a look at this former contracts review on glassdoor.co.uk. Says it all really, doesn't it? They dropped mobile games development. Looking at Draconius Go and Wormax, which appear to be their most successful mobile games, we can see that they no longer run them. It would appear that they've sold their games to AI Games FZ. It does seem like they kept hold of my lands. It's still being developed and sold by Elyland, so maybe they're keeping someone on the team just to keep that going. Because as we can see, there are some updates. It is being worked on. Wormax 2 is a web browser based game, which probably doesn't need a hell of a lot of updates. Now if I go to LinkedIn to look up Elyland, we can see from this page that there's 22 people on LinkedIn that are still working the company. Now I'm not saying that everyone's on LinkedIn, but it would be pretty typical for the majority of people to be on there. And I did check and it's actually only no more than 20 people, which is a massive drop from the 100 people that they used to have working for them. This definitely adds evidence to the "they're not supporting mobile games" comment that we saw on Glassdoor. As a games developer, Elyland is dead, and I think they died because they put everything into the cryptocurrency that they wanted to set up, the Go cryptocurrency. They probably invested everything into an ICO. They had invested into a game that was linked entirely to the ICO, and when the ICO collapsed, all of that investment disappeared because that game, as soon as the ICO was cancelled, the servers weren't there anymore. So this is a company that showed how greedy they were right from the off. Now it was only a month into the game that they decided to clamp down on people being able to earn coins for free, and it was only 4 months after the release of the game that they were charging £100 for one monster. This was a greedy company, and that greed was their downfall. But what a difference only 5 years makes. A game that tried to monetize in the same way that Diablo Immortal does now died because of it. A company that tried to link one of their games to cryptocurrency, like Ubisoft is doing now, died because of it. Is Blizzard gonna die? Is Diablo Immortal gonna die? What about Ubisoft? Probably not. I don't know. But they're doing the same thing as the company that did die. We can hope, or at least hope that they change. I'm wondering if me and AAA Games have come to the point where I don't think we can talk anymore. We don't seem to be able to get in a room together without arguing over money. And I've had enough. I want a divorce. And I'm keeping the dog. As always, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.